So is training more important than nutrition to build muscle, or is nutrition more important than training to build muscle? So back then I used to actually think that nutrition was more important, but my coach said to me, and it actually makes quite a bit of sense, if you were to eat well and not train, would you build any muscle? Probably not. But if you had a bad diet and you trained very hard, would you build muscle? So yes, that comes to that makes sense. If you trained very hard and had a bad diet, then you would build muscle, yes. So that kind of puts into perspective of how important training is. You need to be training quite hard and with good intensity, with good form, in order to build muscle. So now that I've went from, I guess, 65 kilos to 93 kilos now, I would dare say so. If I trained with a lot better intensity and a lot better form when I first started, I would have put on quite a bit of muscle, way more muscle. And if I actually focused on getting stronger, tracking my lifts from the very start, I would be way ahead. Way ahead. When I first started, I was focusing on too much, I dare say, volume. Volume is important, but what I figured out over the years is just getting stronger in your numbers, just beating the numbers, doing the same exercise over and over, and trying to get stronger, beat your numbers, get more reps, get more weight. That is what I'm trying to say, is over time, your numbers should be progressing. You should be getting stronger. You should be lifting more weights. You should be doing more reps. And yeah, that is the big thing that I've realized, that you have to be progressing with your numbers, with your lifts, because if you go into the gym and doing the same shit over and over, guess what? You're most likely not going to be progressing. So in order to build muscle, you need to be training with intensity, the right form. So training is so crucial now that I'm at this stage of my, I guess, gym, lifting, whatever you want to call it. That training is so crucial now that, yes, nutrition is important, but what I'm trying to say is training is far more important of getting stronger. That's why I believe that, getting enough carbohydrates, eating enough food, getting enough rest, so you can go into the gym and perform and just get strong as fuck. I wish I knew this earlier, and that my current coaches drills it into me, that going there, just trying to get stronger, just trying to fucking be an animal, going there and just trying to push hard as fuck. Because when I'm going to these sessions, I'm like so locked in that I'm trying to beat my last performance. I'm going in there really just trying to annihilate. Not when I say annihilate, I'm not trying to do fucking heaps of supersets and drop sets. I'm just going there with good execution, especially good intensity, hitting fader.
Got my pre-workout, double shots. You already know, pre-workout, double shots, so it should be about 100 milligrams of caffeine.
And speaking of pre-workout, never ever do you want to be training fasted. The reason why you want to be training fasted, trying to build muscle, is if you're going to sleep, say you're going to sleep 8 hours, you're very depleted, you haven't had any food, you haven't had any water, hydration, and now you're gonna go do some weightlifting, and first thing your body's gonna most likely go to is your protein, which is your muscle. You haven't had any food, you're fasted, no water, and people are going to argue, you're depleted, your muscle's going to go to, your body's going to go to your fat energy and stored energy and things like that. But if you look at the pros, even John Meadows, he speaks about training fasted is not a good idea. And look, if you're going to train fasted, have at least some sort of fast digestion carbohydrates, such as a fruit or a protein shake, or even drink EAs during your session. You should be drinking that during your session regardless anyway. So yes, you want to be eating some sort of protein, 20 grams of protein, but pre-training, at least 80 to 90 grams of carbohydrates. And you want to keep your fats a little bit low pre-workout. just so it helps with digestion and you get the food in you quite quickly. But yeah, you don't want to be having a high fatty meal pre-workout, to be honest. Yeah, pre-workout, you want something fast, carbohydrates, something that's easy to digest. And ideally, you don't want to be going to your sessions quite hungry. Obviously in a fat loss phase it's different. You're going to have to, most likely, go into your sessions quite hungry. But typically in a growth phase or trying to build muscle, you don't want to be going to your sessions hungry. Because personally for me anyway, if I was to go to the session hungry, I'm going to be thinking about food the whole time, and I don't want to be thinking about that. But also you don't want to eat too close to your session. If you're eating food, let's just say you're having your pre-workout meal 30 minutes beforehand, probably not ideal. You want to be probably let it, and probably an hour and a bit before your session, let it digest, and then go work out. But speaking of nutrition, keeping your fats low, carbohydrates high, protein would be anywhere in kilograms. So if you weigh 80 kilos, you want to have about 160 grams of protein. So 2 times your body weight. If it's in pounds, then it's 1 times your body weight. So we keep it simple. If you're 100 pounds, you should be having 100 grams of protein. Fats, keep it quite low. So anywhere, depending on your body weight, but usually it's anywhere between 70 to 100 grams. Typically I find anyway. And then the rest will be all your carbohydrates. You want to push your carbohydrates quite high, but it really depends on the person. Obviously in a growth phase, trying to build muscle, it's different for everyone, but yeah, a lot of it will be towards carbohydrates. The reason why is carbohydrates are muscle sparing and is your body's first source of energy. So it shows that you want to have a high carbohydrate diet. But yeah, that is my point, that training is more important than nutrition. But if I was to choose one, would it be training or nutrition? I would pick training every single day of the week. I would rather be able to train and have a shit diet than not being able to train and have a good diet, because you can build muscle with a shit diet. But if you can't train at all, then not good. So obviously you want to have a good diet and good training.